It's Tales from the Treehouse. But I mean, I say that with zero context, expecting everybody listening to know exactly what that means. Tell you what, let's start everybody by telling you who we are. Hi, I'm Andrew Fantasia.
Hi, I'm Amanda Barone.
And we are a couple of dorks who grew up in the 1990s, which is, I don't want to sound biased here, Amanda, but it is the best decade ever.
100% agreed.
Like we had it all. We really did have it all. And one of the things that we had, actually, no, I'm gonna cancel that. Two of the things that we had, arguably better than everybody else who grew up in other decades, was 90s Halloween and 90s Simpsons.
Agreed. We got actually to trick or treat, and we got to witness the Simpsons live. I mean, I did the Simpsons live every year, usually pre-Halloween.
Yeah, usually, and in some weird times, like far after Halloween, when they had like baseball playing, it was a whole weird thing. But that's the crux of this podcast. This little show that we wanted to send out to all of you is a Halloween Simpsons podcast, something that I think we can really milk because there's a lot of good material here. Tales from the Treehouse is kind of what it sounds like. We're going to be talking about the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror Halloween episodes, because those are arguably some of the most special episodes of this already far too special show. And we're coming at it from a very unique perspective because of the way we grew up and how this show affected us growing up. Amanda, do you want to start? Do you want to tell people your Simpsons story? Who are you to the Simpsons and who are they to you? What's going on there?
Oh man, the Simpsons are like an extended part of the family for me. I grew up watching them. I remember the first episodes of The Simpsons, watching it on TV with my older brother and my mom and my dad. Being especially excited about the Treehouse of Horror and the Halloween episodes, as a huge Halloween fan and a huge horror fan and sci-fi fan in general. But it was really a true, I feel like, huge part of the 90s too, for sitcoms and shows, especially popular ones, to have, those special seasonal holiday or, Halloween episodes. So it was really a testament to, it being a true 90s show. And I love that they've carried that on and carried that tradition into every season. Just like they've carried on a huge part of their fan base, I think, as the series has grown. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Treehouse of Horror and the Simpsons in general. But yeah, my whole family grew up watching it. I still watch it to this day. I have my favorite seasons, like we all do, but it still slaps. I think, give it a chance if you stopped for any reason watching it. But extended family.
I love that, extended family. You're right. There is still good stuff going on in modern Simpsons. I don't think people are very fair. They write modern Simpsons off too fast. Just give it a chance. It's still the same characters you love. I'm very jealous that you get to experience it with your family, that they all watch it. I'm like the only person in my family who likes it. So like if there's a Thanksgiving dinner and I drop some kind of quote, everybody's looking at me like I have two heads. They're like, what are you talking about? Lisa needs braces. What? Who? So there's everybody in my family likes sports. So I'm just like the black sheep. But so the fact that you get that with your family is really special. I wish I could say that I was watching it from the beginning. I would have been 2 when it started. I would have been 2 when like that first Christmas episode, the first full episode dropped. But I didn't have cable for a very long time in my childhood. And then eventually, I can't remember how old I was, but eventually we got it. I was probably around 9 or 10 when we finally got it. And at that point, the first thing that came on when we turned on the TV with brand spanking new cable was an episode of The Simpsons. So
amazing.
Yeah, it had that little magic quality of like knowing like, oh, this is something new. This is something we haven't been able to have access to for so long. And it became something I would watch religiously.
Mhm.
I wish I could say when it was, so I could say what season that was. But I know it was the first TV show I ever bought on DVD. When I found out that like they were putting shows out on DVD in the early 2000s, I was like, ooh, and I grabbed that Simpsons season 1 so fast. Like it was glorious when that happened.
Well, that's definitely a unique experience. When you got cable and you knew you were excited to watch it, like, was it something you looked for, you had planned on looking for to, and planned on watching because you had heard about it, or your friends were also watching it and talking about it, and it was significant in terms of your peers being fans as well?
That's a great question. I it wasn't in my personal, like I didn't have like a bucket list and be like I gotta watch Simpsons, but it popped up first, and then I was like, okay, I'll keep watching this show because this was funny. I had been aware of it because like Bart Simpson was everywhere in 1991. You couldn't escape him whether you watched the show or not. So I was always aware that it existed. And at some point around the time that I got cable, I was also reading like Simpsons books. So there was this book you've probably read it, Bart Simpson's Guide to Life. Do you remember that book?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was like around. It might have been a little bit before I got cable, but I got my hands on that book, and I'm like, this is so fun. And then when I started getting into the show itself, I picked up this book. For those watching the video, you can see what I'm holding up. It's The Simpsons Complete Guide to Our Favorite Family. And it's literally just an episode guide for the first 8 seasons. And as you can see, if you're watching this, it's a very worn, like this book is worn out completely. Like some of the pages are literally about to fall out because I carried this damn thing everywhere. To the point where like I read it so much. This is so dorky, Amanda, but just I read this so much that I knew because it shows the episodes in order.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to the point where I could tell, like I would turn on the TV and an episode of Simpsons would be on, and I would know, oh, okay, so if this one is on, the one that's going to play tomorrow is the one with Krusty meeting his dad, because I would know the syndication order.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was when it became a thing. And that was probably like 99 or 2000, around there. So I was late to the party, but boy, I showed up to that party and I brought it.
You know what? I believe it. And I feel like around that time was the probably the height of its popularity, pre 2000s, like Simpsons movie, and more of the fans becoming young adults and buying merchandise, and Universal making Springfield like a part of the park and all of that, and when Disney bought Fox or whatever. And yeah, I think it was really, really interesting. Like to see in general how like so many people watched it. And like for me, it was the most I feel like the most heavily syndicated then. Like it was on every channel. Yeah. Several times a day. A lot of Canadian channels carried it. It was on Fox, and like you couldn't swing a cat or like a purse or whatever without there being an episode of The Simpsons on.
I love how you went to cat first before you.
Yeah, cat first. No, don't swing cats. Maybe purses, but yeah, it was so popular and was so heavily entrenched in other areas of pop culture by that time. Like more cameos from famous people were happening on The Simpsons. They were doing more parodies of more current events and current movies. So things I would say were very topical during that period, even more so than before. But yeah, it really exploded, and I just remember I was younger, like 4, when it started, or became popular and syndicated, and we watched it all the time with my older brother. I feel like we were super characteristically similar to Bart and Lisa at that time. Like he was Bart and the Lisa. We didn't have any other siblings, but yeah, so we always watched the show. And I feel like at that time during the 90s, like again, nuclear families were a really big thing. So it was very reflective of, you know, mainstream America, mainstream Canada, like families and households. So it was digestible for a lot of people within it because it was such a broad range comedy and the fact that it was a cartoon. So it caught everyone's eye, including kids. They would watch it and just think, you know, on the baseline, they would watch the plot lines with the children and respond how they did, and vice versa, or for adults, the same thing. But the comedy was layered in such a way that it was tasteful and everyone could watch it. And again, I think Disney really probably took a lot of notes watching The Simpsons, and it comes to a lot of the jokes they have in their modern movies, like trying to reflect, you know, a more broad range audience and cater to them all.
That's a great point.
Funny. So yeah. I watch a lot of older episodes of The Simpsons now, and I'm like, wow, that's just this show now, or that's just this joke now.
It really did. Like, I can't take credit for this. I can't remember who said it, but it really did define the sense of humor of almost the whole generation.
100%. Yeah. Millennials, for sure. A lot of millennials, maybe, and, you know, Gen Xers as well. Not as many, but yeah, for sure, millennials. And I mean, it was written by Gen Xers for the most part, I feel like.
Yes, by Gen Xers who really like, and they had their upbringing on a lot of pop culture, so they brought that with them.
Yeah.
And in turn, we sponged up that knowledge. So like we're seeing references to like shows like Hee Haw, which I can't speak for you, but I'd never watched Hee Haw in my life, but I'm seeing it parodying on The Simpsons, and I'm like, okay, now I know there was a show called Hee Haw, and it just becomes this little nugget of like connecting the new generation with the old.
Yeah, see, a lot of I agree. Yeah, they did a really good job of, like you said, bringing more historical pop culture references into a lot of their jokes, and kind of revisiting those stories and introducing those shows to the new generations, because they'd make a joke and it would be funny and relevant. And you're like, what is that they're talking about? And you'd look into it and you'd be like, oh, this. So you kind of educate yourself on, you know, previous generations, you know, hits, and like familiarize yourself with that kind of humor and maybe how they were trying to reflect it on the show and how they, you know, put their Simpsons twist on it, which is always the best part, specifically with the Treehouse of Horror episode. Right. Yeah.
And since the Treehouse of Horror episodes are Halloween episodes, I think it's only fitting that we should also talk about our like growing up in the 90s and Halloween, and how those two were almost literally sometimes peanut butter and chocolate. Like that was peak Halloween. It really, I mean, again, I sound like a biased old man, like you kids don't know how good you don't have it anymore. Like, but it is in fact the Halloween has not been as good since. It really hasn't.
No, the 90s was peak Halloween because everybody was into it, and it was safe, and it wasn't viewed as something negative or anti-Christian or anti-religious. It was just something that, you know, children participated in, and it was fun for kids, and it was a community event, and they got to learn a little bit about, you know, history or culture. And, you know, it's a fun time. It's about imagination, which is great for kids. They get to pretend and dress up. Nothing wrong with that, or being creative. And I think the 90s was really, really open to that and embraced that a lot in a lot of ways. Maybe not in certain ways, but with children for sure. Like kids, you know, children were the future, right? That was a big thing. So everybody is always up to participate, usually when it's for kids, and a fun event. And Halloween just is fun for adults too, because you get to dress up. It's usually a party. Like, I've never had negative connotations toward I guess technically like the holiday, right? Even though, I had a very highly Catholic upbringing, Christian, right?
Mm-hmm.
We went to the same high school, so I know you were also Catholic.
Yeah.
So, as a European, I guess, family or background, we still participated like in Halloween. And I remember specifically in Canada, The Simpsons used to air on Sundays.
Yeah.
And I think it did it in the US as well. The dates are pretty much the same, but it aired on Sundays back in the 90s or back in the day. I don't know what day it airs now.
It might still be the same.
I think it is. But it really used to inform the week because there weren't a lot of shows. And for most people, like, they would watch, the top TV, and it kind of, you carry it throughout the week, like the jokes, you talk about it with people, maybe your work colleagues, and you see your friends or your family throughout the week, and you talk about the episode because everybody used to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was part and parcel to it being so popular, it being so funny, people liking it, and there not being other options that were like it at the time.
Right. There wasn't this deluge of
Yeah.
adult animated sitcoms yet.
Yeah, that kids could also watch and enjoy. So it really hit all of those targets. So yeah, it's a cultural phenomenon. There's really like no other shows, I think, at this point, like it, that have as many seasons, that has this huge following. Like, there really is like a theme park that's partially devoted to the show. Like, that's a pretty big deal.
I
A show
forgot
that
about
started, a long time ago. And it's a fun place. Actually, on the fridge behind me, and I have a Surly magnet, like a Duff man.
I remember seeing a picture of that. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a Lady Duff one as well. So I have 2 bottle openers. I had to.
Oh, so cool.
It's a good time. But yeah, it's a special show, and it has a way of continuously evolving its humor and keeping up with the times.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to maintain that balance of it being, clean. They don't swear. I was thinking about that today. Like, would it make The Simpsons better if they had swearing? No, I don't think it would, because it's better how they kind of tiptoe around things and like cut things off before they get like the full like they start like, and they'll cut it off.
Yeah.
But it's just, the writers have done a good job and of changing over too, because I think that's made a difference, with the series, right? They have a lot of writers who come, stay for a while, they change.
Right. After so many years, the change is inevitable, but like you said, there's still some bangers happening.
Yeah, they've maintained it.
Yeah,
the formula.
The quality is going to go up and down, but you're not looking at a dead show. There's still a lot there to offer. But we didn't want to do an 848 episode podcast, so we're not covering everything. We're covering specifically the Treehouse of Horror. So to let listeners know exactly what our show is, what Tales from the Treehouse is, I want you all to sit back and I want you all to think of us. Amanda and I are like Bart and Lisa, and we've invited you into our treehouse. We're going to tell you some scary stories that may involve some strange-looking yellow cartoon characters, and we just want you to have a ball with us. Just get cozy, just listen to some treehouse tales, have a laugh, and we are going to, throughout the course of the show, we're going to essentially cover one Treehouse of Horror per episode of our show. And our goal is to rank the 3 stories. At the end of each episode, we're going to rank, okay, every Treehouse has 3 separate short stories. We're going to rank those, say, okay, my favorite of this episode was the one where Homer is a jack-in-the-box, whatever. And then at the end of it all, we're going to, I think our goal, Amanda, is to go to 20. I think, right? That's the realistic target we're shooting for.
Yeah, that's what we aimed for, 20.
Yeah. So 20 Treehouses of Horror, which will take us to season 21. And then at the end of that, we're going to look back. We're going to do something crazy. We're going to rank all 20 Treehouse of Horrors. We're going to talk about which ones had the most impact. I'm not essentially, we're not going to rank them all, but we'll do our top 5 or top 10 favorite stories rather. I think that's the best way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. We'll, because there's a lot of good stories to choose from, even in some of those later seasons. So obviously we can't start at number 2, Amanda. We can't start at number 3. We got to start with Treehouse of Horror 1, which always throws me off because it's in season 2. So
Season 2.
right when we're looking in the DVDs or whatever, we're just like, oh, wait a minute, I have to do a little bit of math every time I'm trying to figure out what season has what. So Treehouse of Horror 1. I don't know. Did you see this one live by any chance?
I did. I did actually. Yes.
Oh my God. Okay, so you must have been little.
Yeah, I was little, but my brother is about 6 years older.
6 years older. Okay.
I usually would just watch whatever he watched to a point. Like I was pretty intelligent when it came to things. Like I understood like TV isn't real, it's fake. Like unless it's the news, really, or like a nature documentary. Like or if I'm unsure, ask, fact check. But most of it's just TV. It's fake. Like I understood, and I had a huge affinity for cartoons, like most children did. Who didn't love 90s cartoons as well. Like those were the best. The whole series on that. But specifically, my family loved comedy. We always watched comedy, stand-up comedy movies. So impartial to The Simpsons, like it's a comedy series, it's a cartoon, but a family like my own. So we started watching it. We loved it. Yeah, I'd say that we did watch it live, like most people we knew, and they were obsessed. Like, oh my God, did you watch it? Yeah, it was a big thing.
That is so cool to have been there for that, like the premiere of these. That's you're living the dream. So that originally aired October 24th, 1990. Yeah. So I would have been 3. I was definitely aware Simpsons existed. I think I had a Simpsons puzzle, a jigsaw puzzle, but I was definitely not watching the show at that point. I was watching Golden Girls a lot at that time, though.
Slaps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Homegirl.
And October 24th, like what a perfect date to air a Halloween show. Like it's in that nice sweet spot. Like it's not too far beforehand. It's not afterwards. It's like it's in the prime spot of getting people psyched for Halloween.
And it's actually the week before actual Halloween when no one would be at home because everyone would be out trick-or-treating.
Yeah, that's right.
Air it live. Yeah.
That's right. And I think when we get to a certain season, I think that season aired its Treehouse on Halloween night, if I'm not mistaken. And that was weird. I remember coming home to watch that, but we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
So we got 3 stories. We got Bad Dream House, Hungry Are the Damned, and The Raven. So let's talk about Bad Dream House because that's our first one. Oh, and our sort of intertwining story here is, in fact, the Treehouse. One of, I think, the only episode of Treehouse of Horror that actually has the Treehouse of Horror in a prominent spot, with Bart and Lisa telling stories. And of course, the only person they managed to scare is their grown-ass father. So classic Simpsons bit already, just taking comedy and turning it on its ear. So Bad Dream House, Amanda, tell us about Bad Dream House.
That episode of The Simpsons is very reflective of many haunted house movies that happened. And it's all about the Simpsons buying a new house, Manor on the Hill, and moving in because they got a great deal. And right away, one of the first jokes, I think, is like the moving guy, like Homer, like gives them a bad tip, and he's like, "This house is cursed." And he's like, "What?" So it's really funny. Like they almost deserve it. Like they're bad people for moving in.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was really a big parody of Poltergeist specifically, and like I feel like probably Amityville,
Yeah.
maybe like House on Haunted Hill. They really did a good job of picking stories that people were super familiar with. Like even if it's not something that a movie you watched, it was something that was so popular. Like even if you didn't watch horror movies, you know what Amityville is about, or you know what Poltergeist is about, just from the plot. So
Right.
they're always like intimately like, you can recognize the story or what it's supposed to be parodying. But they did a really good job with that one, and I think it was pretty funny how they incorporated a lot of elements of Poltergeist. And the guest on that episode was James Earl Jones, so he's actually in each episode. And in that one, he's the moving guy who's like, and he does I think he does a few other voices like of the house, like when it's haunted, because they move in and it kind of slowly escalates. Marge starts to realize something's wrong. The kids, they can't convince Homer to leave because it's, so expensive and they don't want to, got a great deal. They're going to try to stick it out.
Very indicative of today's housing market. It's like, oh, a ghost,
indicative.
You know what? I'll live with the ghost. Why not?
Yeah. It's kind of a twist on that, where people would mostly be leaving. They're just like, oh, we got to try and make it work. Yeah.
And they play with the whole built on top of an Indian burial ground trope that Poltergeist used so well.
Poltergeist, yep.
Yeah. They really, you summed it up really well. They really took the best, it's like a greatest hits album of every haunted house movie that was popular at the time. And they're just like, okay, mix this together and now throw the Simpson family into it and let's see what we get. And what we get is this delicious cake that is this little 5-minute or 7-minute short, however long it is. Did you have, and I think this is because The Simpsons is such a damn quotable show, I think it's almost, it would be reckless of us not to do this, Amanda. Did you have a favorite quote or favorite moment from that dream house?
Definitely when the house just destroys itself. He's like, I can't do this. It just implodes. Not to spoil it. Whereas, which is very similar to the ending of Poltergeist, where the house like implodes on itself, it disappears. Actually, sorry, that's Poltergeist 2, I think. But yeah, it's pretty funny. I like that part. That the demon house just can't take the family in the end of it. And yeah, again, it plays on that trope, the parody of the movie, but it twists it on its head where family would normally die, but The Simpsons.
Yeah. I think my favorite moment of this is it's something that I do in my life now, and that is, that's Simpsons in a nutshell. Is things from the show stay with you for the rest of your life and they become a part of your own vernacular. But again, this is so dorky, and I don't know if I've ever done this when anybody was in the room, because that would raise a lot of eyebrows. But when everybody's possessed,
yeah,
and they trick you into thinking Marge is possessed, but it turns out she's just making a sandwich. So she's picking up this big knife, and she holds the knife, and she's like, and then she just starts buttering a piece of bread. I do that every time I'm using a knife.
The Marge Bad Dream House knife.
I hold it overhead really dramatically, and then I just softly bring it down on my bread and start spreading stuff. And that would probably get me kicked out of a lot of places, but damn, it just never fails to put a smile on my face.
Don't tear the bread, though. You don't want to ruin the sandwich.
Be careful with that bread.
Be gentle. Yeah.
But like, what a perfect first story for this now 37-year-long tradition of telling stories every Halloween, because it is like one of the most classic Halloween stories. And I love old haunted house movies too. New haunted house movies, actually, don't judge me, but they kind of freak me out a little bit. Like I saw the first Paranormal Activity and I could not sleep for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to be real careful what I watch, but the older stuff, like House on Haunted Hill, or sorry, The Haunting of Hill House, which those two titles are way too similar. The Haunting of Hill House is one of my favorite books, the Shirley Jackson book, and the original movie they made of it is like 5 stars. Like, so there's good ones out there that are totally worth it. And if you're not a chicken like me, I'm sure there's good ones out there now that are totally worth it. Like, I've never seen a Conjuring and I don't plan to, but I'm sure they're, you know, if you love haunted house movies, I'm sure those movies are perfect.
I would say, yeah, they're well done. And they're not this, I feel like, I've not had the Simpsons parodied The Conjuring. They probably have. I'd have to check. I feel like I haven't watched all the more recent Simpsons Halloween. Like the last couple. Maybe they did, but I know they did Paranormal Activity.
Oh, they did.
In one later season. And yeah, it's funny that, yeah, The Conjuring was well done. But I would like to see their twist on it, because it is a pretty scary, like, haunted house movie. Unlike some of the late 90s, early 2000s scary movies, like House on Haunted Hill, like, you know, 13 Ghosts, some of those movies.
I saw 13 Ghosts for the first time, like, last year, and I was digging it for 5 minutes, and then I'm like, okay, I see where this is going now, boy.
But you, like, it sucks, but when it came out, it was like, oh yeah, this movie's all right. It was what it was at the time, like, so good. Still bad, like, not bad, but yeah, The Simpsons did a really good job of parodying the haunted house and kind of capturing the best of all those movies. Like, the style of the house was very, like, Manor style, like Amityville Horror, old school haunted house, like you think of. Poltergeist is just like a regular house, right? But they did pick up on a lot of the elements, like the tree outside, and yeah, talking to Bart, or I think it was, Lisa, talking to Lisa in her room. They do a good job of picking up on specific elements. I would say from the Poltergeist movie, the tree part always tripped me out.
Which part?
The part with the tree, with the little boy, where he has the tree next to his room, and he thinks, like, he sees the person in it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like the Simpsons episode where she hears it talking, and she's like, "Oh my god, the tree! Like, the tree's talking." She freaks out. Yeah, they do a good job of making it, you know, adding levity and kind of turning it around on itself. Which is probably why when I grew up, you know, watching The Simpsons, watching the Treehouse of Horrors, and then, you know, we also watched horror movies. Again, I was pretty chill with movies, I understood, but I was never really afraid of them, because I always maybe saw the funny part of it, thanks to The Simpsons, or look at, like, you know, what would be funny if this happened.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Like, it softened the blow for you when you finally stepped into the ring.
Yeah, I think it did. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. And that feels, I feel like in 50 years, the haunted house movies, I mean, I hope this doesn't happen, but are they all just going to take place in, like, open concept modern homes where, like, everything is a window? Because that sounds friggin' awful. Like, count me out.
Yeah, they're not walking through any walls because it's open concept.
Everything just has a live, laugh, love sign on it.
Yeah. Ask me what the Wi-Fi password is. Like, that's what it's doing when it's haunting us. Yeah, it's not going to be the same thing. And what kind of outfits are they going to be wearing? Like,
oh yeah, she was wearing booty shorts that said "juicy" on the back.
Yeah, exactly. Huge hoop earrings, double polo collar pop. Imagine.
Oh, somebody has to make that movie now.
Yeah. Modern ghosts. These modern ghosts.
So after Bad Dream House, we get Hungry Are the Damned, and, like, just setting precedents left, right, and center here, because we have the first appearance of Kang and his sister Kodos.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? They first appeared 35 years ago, and they've been lighting up our TVs ever since. This is just a really simple alien abduction story. The Simpsons are having a nighttime barbecue for some reason, and
Yeah. Nighttime.
they get scooped up into the sky by a flying saucer, and they meet King and Kodos. And there's actually, I think there's a few other. There's the alien who is voiced by James Earl Jones.
Mm-hmm. He's the cook.
He's the cook, and then I think wasn't there a couple more in the background too that don't say anything.
Yeah, they're like background Rigelians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those guys need a spinoff.
Yeah.
It's the simple Twilight Zone-esque kind of thing of the family getting taken in by these aliens, and the aliens are feeding them and treating them like kings. And you, the viewer, as well as Lisa, because she's the only one with, a high IQ, start to get the sense that, hey, something's not kosher here. What's their end game? And you start to figure, okay, they're being basically used as livestock here. They're going to be eaten until, in classic Simpsons fashion, it turns on its head, and they really were not planning on eating the Simpsons. The aliens really were just being nice to them and wanting to share their beautiful gifts with the rest of the universe. And their own suspicion gets them kicked off the ship, and diplomacy has failed. And like, that is, at its core, that is a very Twilight Zone-y kind of plot. And I'm sure, like, because as we talked about, the Simpsons writers took a lot from the TV and film of their youth and squeezed that into the Simpsons. And Twilight Zone was huge back when these writers would have been young. So the way Treehouse of Horror was formative for us, Twilight Zone was formative for them. So it's fun getting to see them take essentially what would make a great Twilight Zone like plot and just turn it into not only a great Simpsons story, but a Simpsons story that became this thing where now we see King and Kodos every year.
Yeah. So you nailed it. It actually is based on a Twilight Zone plot.
There we go.
An episode. And the episode is one of the most popular ones. And it's called To Serve Man.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's all about, similarly, an alien species. In this Twilight Zone version, though, they look more humanoid. They're not like tentacled octopus fang like creatures. They're not cool like King and Kodos. But yeah, it's based on that, and it's very dramatically sad ending. Like, obviously tragic and like awful in the actual one. Like, if you ever watch the series, The Twilight Zone, if you can ever find it, the old series, it's one of the most popular, like I said, and it's one of the most bleak, and it has one of the most bleak endings, because it's all about aliens who come, convince humanity to come to their planet, similar to the Simpsons episode, because it's like a paradise, and get people to volunteer to come on these like ships and join them, and some of their, I guess, like propaganda or information is found by like an interpreter. And at the very last minute, as he's being basically he's not volunteering to go on a ship, he's being forced onto a ship, his colleague explains to him that like the book that they have, this alien species, which is called To Serve Man, is a cookbook. Like, that's what he says. He's like, it's a cookbook. And that's like the twist of the show. So I like how the twist of the show is like, it's a cookbook for humans, for 40 humans. And then the humans are the monsters. So the bleak ending is they have to go back to her in like their human lives. If they had, so suspect and untrusting, right? Even though they were being like hella suspicious and like licking their lips at Homer and like.
Right.
Lisa was also not vegetarian in that episode. She they bring her shrimp.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was before she.
Lisa. Yeah.
And I remember, I think it was when Netflix first came out, or not when it first came out, but when I first got it, which was like a year or so later. I think Twilight Zone was on there for like a minute, because I remember binge watching like the first 15 episodes, and I'm like, this is as good as I've heard. Like, this is amazing. And then it was gone. So I haven't been able to watch past wherever I stopped. But I'm dying to see what's the
Sure. But if you have, if there's another subscription-based service that has it, that's the one. Watch it. No, they're pretty good. They still hit. Like the stories, translate well into the modern day, and even into like something being a comedy, right? And I was thinking about the quote, and it's a simplification of like something that I think Aristotle said about like a story or plot either being tragedy or comedy. So it's funny when you can like take something that's usually like a tragedy and making it funny, like twisting it.
Yeah.
So they do a very good job of that. Like, and I can appreciate the philosophy swap and change or transfer when they do that in most things. They did a good job with this one.
Oh yeah, and even like this ending is bleak too for Simpsons. Like that whole idea of the just them saying like we were the monsters on that ship. But yeah, you're right. They even with a bleak Twilight Zone-y ending, which I'm sure Twilight Zone probably had an episode somewhere where the ending was similar to this too, where it was like, oh, truly the man was the real monster here.
Yeah.
They still kept it light and they still kept it Simpsons, and every character was true to their character.
Mhm.
I'm sure the temptation must be so high when they're writing these, because the Treehouse episodes are not canon. They can kill Homer and it's fine because it's just the Treehouse episode. I'm sure the temptation must have been so high to play with people's characters and make people act out of character. But I think somewhere cooler heads prevailed, because that would cheapen what we're watching, even though it's just the Halloween episode. If Bart wasn't acting like Bart, it would not quite be right.
Yeah, it's always the Bart version of this, or the
Yeah.
Homer version of this character. They're good at maintaining certain characteristics and like idiosyncrasies of the character that keep them funny while still being, familiar to whatever they're being a parody of, right? Or satirizing. And they do a good job of like the balancing act of keeping the original story there enough to keep you, entertained and on board, but while keeping a dash of like the Simpsons humor, right? That's what makes the best part. I think my favorite part from the Hungry Are the Damned episode. Do you have one? I know 100% what it is.
You know what mine is?
I wonder if it's the same part.
Let's see. Take a guess.
So, okay. Shoot. The part where they blow the dust off the book and they just keep doing it. Is that your favorite part? Like they have the dust off?
That's runner up. That's a runner up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That was my guess for you. My favorite part is when they're originally abducting them and they go to like abduct Homer and they have like the beam on him.
Mm-hmm.
But it isn't strong enough, so they have to turn on another one and then they're like both lift.
I'm so happy that that's your favorite because it's very close to my favorite. Mine is like right in there. And it's literally them seeing the ship, and Homer's got a burger in his hand and he's like, holy moly. And he just takes another bite.
He doesn't care. My burger, yeah. It's dinner time. Yeah.
Great minds think alike. I love it.
Yeah.
So at that point, we cut back to the treehouse, and the kids are not scared, but Homer is shuddering for some reason after hearing that story. It's really hitting him deep. And then Lisa starts to tell our third story, The Raven. Ooh, okay, this one. Go ahead and walk us through The Raven.
So The Raven is actually not a parody in this group of stories. It's just an epic retelling by James Earl Jones of the poem, and it's visualized with Homer as the main character, the author or the narrator of the poem, and Lenore, his great love, who's, again, she's portrayed by Marge. And then the Raven, who's kind of the menacing character or figure within the story or the poem. And in the in the Simpsons version is Bart, who's actively annoying and being a grievance for the narrator Homer. So it's very befitting of the actual character's, dynamic on the show. Bart annoys Homer, Homer strangles Bart or chases him. So it was a great, I think, way to parallel the story and tell the poem. Essentially, it's a poem or a story, however you want to look at it. And they did a really good job because they didn't really change it. They didn't have to. Again, they just took that something that's kind of tragic and put more of a comedic spin or visualization on it. Because the Raven, the poem, is really sad. And it's dark. It's a Gothic poem by Edgar Allan Poe, for people who aren't familiar. It was like the king of Gothic horror. And I know the Simpsons creators were big fans of Gothic literature, and I know that's a part of the reason why they wanted to include it. And it was one story that is, again, it's not like a parody. It's the actual story. So it's kind of different. And it's really funny because, again, Bart, he plays the villain, which he, is the antagonist in a lot of stories as well. So it works very well. But his, the twist on what is, more sad and mournful, it's more rageful and less, it's, comedic. So they did a really good job with this parody. I think it was good. And again, James Earl Jones does the narration, and he has that gravitas, right? Like everyone recognizes his voice. So it was a great choice to have him in the first Halloween episode as the guest, because his little inserts throughout, the sketches was really good. Because where did it pop up, right? And the last one, was Chef's Kiss.
Yeah, it felt like when you're watching like a sketch comedy show like SNL or something where they have a big guest on, like let's say Christopher Walken is the big guest star that night, and he just keeps getting sprinkled into a bunch of sketches. That's what it felt like with James Earl Jones, even though they were saving him for this big finale.
Yeah.
And what an outlier this Raven is. Like in 37 years, I don't think we've ever gotten another Treehouse story that was just, let's tell you this poem or classic story word for word and Simpsonize it a little bit. Like there's never been anything like that since.
Nope.
So that in itself is noteworthy. And then to top it all off, you've got this gorgeous animation of how they made it look like they really had fun with the fire of his study and everything like that. And the voice acting is, of course, just, it's the most atmospheric thing ever. Like you can't not listen to James Earl Jones and not be you can't not be impressed by him. It was, and I don't think we never read The Raven in school. I remember reading snippets of it, but I didn't read it in its entirety until like a couple of years ago when I got like the book. And I physically cannot read it without hearing James Earl Jones and Dan Castellaneta's voice. Like I can't. It's ingrained in me now.
Yeah.
So it took a classic and added this bedrock of The Simpsons underneath it for me. And now I carry that around with me as just wonderful baggage that I will never put down. What a great way to close off their first episode.
Yeah, it was perfect. And it's funny that you say that because I think now that you mention it, and The Raven, anytime I read it or hear a line and think of it, it's in his voice. It's in James Earl Jones's voice. Although, I've never heard Poe's actual voice. I think he died a couple of years before we may have been able to record it. But that's what I hear as well when I see the poem or when I, just think of it in general. Yeah, and that's thanks to The Simpsons. They really did bring that poem and Edgar Allan Poe back into pop culture by doing that and introducing it to a new generation. Because I mean, it was the first introduction to me, and again, I started watching it early on. So, hey, did they make me a goth or accidentally? No, I'm kidding. I'm not a goth, but unintentionally, like maybe they did influence a lot of people to love, Edgar Allan Poe and James Earl Jones at the same time.
What came first, the dark chicken or the dark egg?
Yeah.
I can't wait to have an English class one day, because I'm going to make my students watch this and be like, okay, look, this is how I'm introducing you to Poe. Deal with it.
Yeah.
In terms of a favorite quote / moment, I think I have to go with when the knock happens on the door and Homer does that little thing where he's got this giant armchair by the fire and they animate him peeking out from either side, sir or madam, like that. It's so cute. That's your favorite too?
Yeah, that's my favorite part. Other than the end where Bart's just there. Never more, never more, never more.
And then Homer, the kids have to go to bed. Their storytelling is over. And they close out the Halloween episode with Homer doing a great impression of me after having watched Paranormal Activity, just cowering under my covers. What a way to end their first of many. It's like you wouldn't know watching it back then how, like, what it's going to start, but it doesn't surprise you either, does it?
No, it didn't. And it made me excited about Halloween. It was like, oh, this also very popular pop culture show that I like and has 2 kids in it that are main characters. They celebrate Halloween, and look, there's a whole episode devoted to it. So it just, reinforces that tradition and, it being fun and, safe. And, not generally affiliated with anything. like people try to make it. Like, it's, chill out, guys. There gets stranger danger, but, go out with your kids if you, are nervous. But
right.
Yeah.
So, you know what time it is? It's time to rank these stories. I think I know where my heart is lying. And the 2 and 3 were the tricky ones. The 1 was simple. I don't know. How about you? Are you feeling confident in your choices?
Yeah, I'm very confident in my selection.
All right.
What are the things? Okay, so I'll start with 3. I would say 3 for me is Bad Dream.
Nope.
That's my choice for 3. I like it, but I feel like the jokes and just, the overall epicness of a couple of the other sketches were, they were top tier. Yeah. What was your number 3?
My number 3. For a second, like, you fooled my brain. I was like, I think that was my 3 too, but it's not. My number 3 was Hungry or the Damned. And I like, honestly, it's only because there's really nothing wrong with it. It's only because I think maybe it gave me the fewest laughs of the 3, but it's still fantastic. And I just like the other 2 mean a lot more to me in terms of what they brought to the table.
So my number 2 is obviously Hungry or the Damned. The reason why I picked it and kind of leveled it just a little higher than the Bad Dream House is because it's the first episode of Kang and Kodo.
Mm-hmm.
Don't blame me, I voted for Kodo, right? I love those characters. I think they're great. There is actually another, I think it's a horror, Treehouse of Horror, where there's like a TV show, like almost like a beginning with a theme song, and it's them. And I wish they needed a show. It would be great. So yeah, I had to rank that number 2 because, I mean, obvious choice for, seems like both of us.
That's totally fair. It's so important to the Simpsons, that story. My number 2 was Bad Dream House. It's just, it's a good time in a bad house. I will never use a knife the same way again, and I owe it all to that.
Butter and toast. Butter and toast. Really
looks like-
impressed you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nice and high up. Ooh, there we go. And it looks like we're sharing a number one.
Raven.
The Raven, baby. I love it.
Amazing. It's definitely the front runner, the winner of the episode.
Yeah.
I
And you
think,
would never expect it, because it's like, imagine if somebody told you off the top, like, okay, we're going to show you 3 stories, 2 of which are like just brand new Simpson stories that we came up with that are kooky and weird. And the other one is a piece of classic literature that we just animated over. And like, you would never think in your head, like, that one's going to be the best.
And I mean, and it's not traditionally like scary in a sense. Like the other stories are obviously scary, like aliens, a ghost, or haunted house, right?
Mm.
They did do a good job at still making it ominous, like with the choice of the narrator, but funny. So more so than the other sketches, it's like they really tried to pay homage to the poem, but while keeping the Simpsons, again, humor. The characters are still kind of true to themselves. It's just again them in another place, or them as another, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it really does stand the test of time in terms of all Simpsons Treehouse of Horror sketches, and maybe even episodes, like parts of episodes, because I think of it often. And, again, anytime I hear James Earl Jones too, like I think of it.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, it's definitely the favorite for me.
It might be some of the best acting Dan Castellaneta's ever done on the show. Like, he really brings it as that narrator.
Yeah.
When he's screaming for Lenore, like he goes all out. And I'm curious now, like I just talked about how I would show this to English students. I'm curious if you show this to somebody who has never watched The Simpsons. So not only do they have no context for the Raven, but they have no context for Homer and Bart and Marge. Like, what are they going to take from that?
Good question. If you maybe played the audio, even so, it didn't have the visualization, but they did have the voice, right? The voice acting. They would probably say it was well done, potentially borderline like Shakespearean, right? Like the way that they did it, and in terms of drama, because they did really pull it through. But it's again the visualization, the comedy brings what really brings the comedy, right? Bart the Raven, this menace, like also a play on Dennis the Menace in general, the character. So yeah, it's a good episode where if you are a fan of horror and you're a fan of horror literature, but you're a fan of comedy, like it's really does a good play on all three, and pays homage to Poe in many ways. They did a great job, like you said. The acting was top shelf. Like if you didn't see it, and like you said, to your point, you didn't see it, you didn't know it was The Simpsons, give them the Oscar, right? Like you did a great job. Maybe not that far, but like. Right?
Yeah, they brought it home. They brought it home with that. And we brought it home because that's the end of our first episode of Tales from the Treehouse already. We did it. We made it out. Nobody died. We're still both alive. There's no fires. I call that a success in my book. So we're going to try to get as many of these out before Halloween as we can. But like The Simpsons itself, we might go into overtime, go a little bit past, them's the breaks. But that's okay, because like any great holiday, Halloween should really be celebrated beyond, it should be something you build up to while celebrating to it, not just on one day. Otherwise, you blow the whole thing in one day, it's not the same. Amanda, do you have anything you want to plug or anything before we sign off?
No, just literacy and media literacy.
That's a great one, actually. I wish more people plugged that.
Yeah. Don't worry about products. Just get reading.
Yeah.
Do it right.
Go read some Poe, for crying out loud.
Yeah, go read some Poe. Exactly.
You know what we should do? We should try to recommend one scary book or short story or whatever at the end of every episode. Should we make that a thing?
Yeah, we definitely could.
Okay. All right. I guess Poe is like the perfect like one for this. Like we'll just, like go read The Raven. Go read, and he's got a lot of great stories too. But yeah, start off with The Raven if you're a Simpsons fan, even if you're not a Simpsons fan. I have anything to plug right now. I have my fantasy novels that I wrote, We Were Wizards, that you can buy on Amazon right this second. What are you waiting for? And there's another one that is not part of that series that I can't talk about yet. But as soon as my cover guy sends me the finished cover, I can finally talk about it and show it off. So that'll be hopefully soon, because it's been a minute now. But
we'll plug that. For sure.
Yes.
I can plug that one.
All right, everybody. I just realized we don't have like a catchy way to sign off. Okay, that's going to be our goal for the next one, is to think of something catchy to sign off with. But until then, I guess we can say happy Halloween, and it's a cookbook.
It's a cookbook. Yes, it's a cookbook. Watch Twilight Zone, guys.
Yes, please do. And somebody bring it back on a streaming service, for God's sake, or put it on Blu-ray. Come on, get on that. Yeah, or other methods. All right, talk to you later, everybody. Bye for now.